Welcome back to SaharaTV. My name is Rudolf Okonkwo. This is the highlight, and in this episode we are going to highlight the plight, the story of the members of the Biafra Zionist Movement. They, on November 5th, declared a state of Biafra in Enugu, and about 500 of them were arrested by the Nigerian police, and they remain locked up, and they are charged with treason. Now, we want to talk about it in the context of the Biafran movement, the Igbo struggle in Nigeria, the Nigerian situation, and of course, the latest news that after the election of Barack Obama, about 40 citizens of 40 states in the United States are demanding to secede from the United States. Now, I want to start by prefacing, I'm going to have two guests today. I'm going to have from Nigeria, joining us from Nigeria will be Lotanna Ojukwu. He is the owner of Lotanna Investment Limited. He has an MBA in International Management, and he's the brother to Ikemba Newi. And also joining us from California will be Dr. Oguchi Nwocha. He's a medical doctor here in Nigeria, in America, and he is a member of the Biafra Liberation in Exile. Oguchi will join us, and Lotanna will join us as we talk about the state of the Igbo people in Nigeria, the Biafran Zionist Movement, and their declaration of the state of Biafra, Biafran Republic in Enugu, which led to their arrest. Before we get our guests to join us, I want to read out some of the context of the struggle as is being presented by several Biafran movements. Of course, the one that we all know is the movement for the actualization of the sovereign state of Biafra, which is MASOB. And after the incident in Enugu on November 5th, they issued a statement, and in the statement they condemned the declaration of Biafra by the Biafra Zionist Movement as an empty declaration, childish, and not well guided. We want to find out why there are two Biafran movements that are in disagreement, and what does that mean for the overall movement for Biafra. I want to find out what is wrong with Nigeria. Why is it that these Biafran movements feel that Nigeria cannot be reformed in any way? And let me go and read you what Ojukwu said during the war, and that may be within the context of what is going on. He said, this is in the Ahari Declaration, that the Federation of Nigeria is today as corrupt, as unprogressive, and as oppressive and irreformable as the Ottoman Empire was in Eastern Europe over a century ago. And in contrast, that the Nigerian Federation, in the form it was constituted by the British, cannot, by any stretch of imagination, be considered an African necessity. Yet, we are being forced to sacrifice our very existence as a people to the integrity of that ramshackle creation that has no justification, either in history or in the freely expressed wishes of the people. So, in Nigeria today, we have the Ogoni group, and sometime about 2 months ago, they declared independence too, or declaration of self-rule. And every group, they all go to the United Nations Charter to assert their right to do so. We want to know what happens next.
Yes.
Does that have anything to do with the structure of Nigeria and what may be the difficulty in reforming it? All right, we have our guest, Dr. Oguchi Nwocha. Welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lotanna Ojukwu, welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Let me start with you, Ojukwu. You are in Nigeria. I believe you followed the incident that happened on November 5th, which was the Biafra Zionist Movement declaration of the Biafran Republic. What do you think about that?
I think Biafra was a very well-fought war. And the war ended a long time ago, and the Igbos have pretty much been very well integrated into Nigeria. I think all the key actors knew how we got into the war, and I don't believe that any minority group really has any right to claim that they are representing the Igbos by resuscitating the notion of Biafra. No matter how sacred those things that the Igbos fought for, or the reasons why we went to war in the first place or got into the civil war. But I don't think we need to be taken backwards. I think we need to look forward, build a nation around Nigeria. We should fight for justice and the right of citizenship wherever we are in Nigeria, and make the best future for our children.
Dr. Nwocha, obviously you disagree.
Obviously, I disagree.
So,
first of all, the Igbos are not well integrated in Nigeria. It has never happened. It will not happen. The Igbos essentially forced themselves into other parts of Nigeria, where they constitute the majority next to the indigenes, and yet they have never been accepted. For that reason, they have been murdered en masse. I will take the speaker, the last respondent, I'll take him through history. But to make it more obvious, we'll remember 1966 when there was a huge pogrom against the Igbo, following which the 1967 to 1970 war, which wasn't a civil war, like he said, it was not a civil war, it was a total war of aggression, total war of genocide against the Igbo, a continuation of the pogrom and ethnic cleansing that the Northerners started. I don't know how anybody can, in this day and age, and say the Igbos are well integrated into Nigeria and we should fight for citizenship when they're killing the Igbo every single day in northern Nigeria, even as we speak. Now, everybody today says Boko Haram is religious this or is that or is that. No, essentially Boko Haram is there to kill the Igbo and force the Igbo out of northern Nigeria. So whenever Nigeria holds the next election, the Igbo will never count in northern Nigeria, because the only way anybody can stand there and run for presidency of Nigeria and get at least 25% of the votes from any state is because if the Igbo support them in all those other states. But the Northerners are going to make sure that that mistake is not repeated. They're going to force all the Igbo back. But I don't know how anybody in this day and age can just blindly believe that the Igbo belong in Nigeria and the Igbo should be working to keep Nigeria one or to integrate them there. If you go to any part of Nigeria, it's the Igbo that are upholding anything that has to do with Nigeria. And yet they're discriminated against, they're killed, they're murdered, and they are ethnically cleansed. So it just beats the imagination. It goes contrary to known facts. You know, to hear somebody today talk about that. Thank you.
I think you are living very much in the past, or actually perhaps you haven't really been in Nigeria for a long time. I am currently in Nigeria. Boko Haram does not target Igbos. Boko Haram has been going around bombing churches, schools, and it does not single out a particular tribe. It attacks Christian churches, and whether there are Hausa Christians or whether there are Yoruba Christians or Efik Christians or Christians from Benue State, it bombs and indiscriminately killed. So I don't see the Igbos as being targeted by Boko Haram. We need to, work seriously. The government needs to fight this insecurity. It is really very, very dangerous. But I don't think as a group that the Igbos should start feeling paranoid or...
Okay, since you cut into my last speak, I'll cut it into yours. What you call if you know really okay, so your argument is that because I'm not in Nigeria that I don't know what's going on. I think that's a stupid argument, because even people that are not in Nigeria know more about what's going on in Nigeria than you do. Now, if you trace the history of Boko Haram, do you remember why their leader was arrested in the first place? Do you know who they were killing? It's only recently that Boko Haram has been touted an equal opportunity killer. They have singled out Igbo all the time. They've been killing Igbo. And then they all of a sudden diversified because everybody was telling them, look, why are you killing the Igbo? To say that, oh, they are not killing the Igbo and the Igbo must be paranoid, what kind of language is that? But no, that is that's totally false. Just because you are sitting down there, you're there and you're doing fine, but the rest of the masses of the Igbo are suffering. They are cowering in northern Nigeria. They are hiding. They are singling them out. There's probably no single day that they're not being killed. And now you're going to sit down there and tell us, oh, no, it's not against the Igbo and that kind of stuff. That if you forget your history because you want to belong to one Nigeria so much, because you want to belong to Nigeria so much, then what have you done?
Excuse me, Mr. Nkwocha. I do not forget
Dr. Nkwocha. Dr. Nkwocha, please.
Dr. Nkwocha, I do not.
Thank you.
But at the same time, a lot of people sacrificed their lives.
Talk about that. I was one of the people that fought in that war.
Fought for Biafra. Biafra did not succeed.
Well, that's
my brother, the leader of Biafra during the Civil War himself, came back to Nigeria, participated in the politics of Nigeria. Today, his party is the party he left behind, APGA, is one of the parties that has a governor that is ruling a state of... I'm talking to Emeka Ojukwu. He was my immediate older brother.
Okay.
And he put himself back into Nigeria and decided that he was going to work for the development of Nigeria. Biafra has been prosecuted as vigorously as we could. We made our point, and we want to move on. We cannot dwell on a...
Mr. Ojukwu, you're the one that wants to move on, okay? Your brother came back.
Not just me. I'm talking of the Igbo people that live in Nigeria and that are getting on with their lives. You are probably in America and you're having dreams of historical...
Same type of argument you've been making all along.
Okay.
That's nonsense.
Let me redirect this, Dr. Nkwocha, please. Let me just redirect this. First of all, I want to look at this from this point. We started by saying that the Biafran Zionist Movement declared Biafra on the November 5th, and they were arrested. They are still in detention. So I want to ask you, Dr. Nkwocha, what is the fate of those young men and women who came out to declare the state of Biafra now? Okay. Let's start from there. We'll get to these discussions you two were having.
Okay. I missed that part of the early introduction because I was cut off before I was turned on.
Okay.
First of all, Biafra was declared in 1967. Okay. That declaration still stands. Nobody can redeclare Biafra. We talked to the BZM people and said, look, all you can ask when I say rededication of our people to the principles and actualization of Biafra, because that original declaration still stands. It cannot be resigned. We respect it and we're working towards it. So that's number one, okay? Apparently, when they made the announcement, they went back to the same thing of a redeclaration, which we did not support, and we advised them that, you know, all you can do is rededicate the people, and the people want to be rededicated to Biafra. So that's number one. Number two, as for their incarceration, I mean, this is the day of self-determination when people go out all over the world and they go into the streets of peaceful protest to protest their governments and to look for political changes. Why is it that only in Nigeria can you single out people protesting peacefully and throw them in jail and then turn around and accuse them of treason? You know, there's nowhere in the world today that will stand. You look at Britain, Great Britain, that's the greatest supporter of Nigeria for economic reasons. Look, even their own people are looking for self-determination, okay? The Scots are looking for a self-determination. They have a referendum coming up. Nobody threw them in jail for treason. They're all talking about it. But you can't talk about these things in Nigeria. Why not? And why would even a group come up today and say they would demand Biafra again? Because that's what our masses want. Because Nigeria is not working out for us. It's not even working out for anybody except for the rich people who are getting a Nigerian elite. There's no particular group that you can go out today to and they say Nigeria is working out for them. It's not working out for us.
All right, let me go to Mr. Ojukwu. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my question is this. The leader of the Biafran Zionist Movement, Benjamin Onwuka, was born during the Biafran War. And it appears as if there is a divide between the people that saw the war and the young ones who were either born or were born after the war. Now, what do you think is responsible for this? Why is it that they are not seeing your viewpoint, which is that there is a place for Igbo people in Nigeria as it's constituted today?
Yes. First of all, I don't think that it is the majority of young Igbos that are aspiring for a rebirth of Biafra. It is not so. I think it's a very small minority who, to whom Biafra represented a dream of a virile state of hardworking, entrepreneurial, those traits for which the Igbo man traditionally has been recognized as giving to the entity Nigeria. Those positive traits that we contribute, hard work, entrepreneurial, these are a state that is successful, where NEPA will work all the time. The roads are good, and so on. So I think these are the things that these young men would like Biafra to be able to give to them. But you look at the states that actually are being run by Igbos today, and you find that things are not as they should be. There's a lot of kidnapping, insecurity going on in Igbo-speaking states. And Nigeria as a whole has developed a lot of problems. And I don't think that declaring a quote-unquote dream of Biafra is going to solve these problems. We have to work together within the Federation of Nigeria and tackle these problems as part of Nigerian citizens. I think the dream that they have is something that they need to wake up from. You know?
Okay. Hold on, Mr. Ojukwu. Dr. Nwocha, let me come to you. You mentioned Scotland a little while ago, and you were talking about how they are going towards, they now have their own parliament in Glasgow, and they are going towards having a referendum to decide whether they want to remain part of the United Kingdom. Now, I want you to help us understand what is the structure of the struggle of different groups that are interested in recreating or establishing the Republic of Biafra. How are they pursuing it? How is it different from the way people in Scotland or people in Quebec are pursuing their goal of establishing a country of their own?
Okay. The way that is different is this. In those countries, they're civilized countries, and they are the countries that also colonize African countries. We'll take Britain as an example. You know, they have civil structures. They have a guarantee of civil rights. They have a guarantee that people can come out and speak their mind, and groups can come out and say, you know, this thing is not working, and therefore we should look at it. But in Nigeria, nobody can say that and still be standing on the streets. But especially when it comes to Biafra, there's a whole conspiracy of Nigerians that do not want to see the light of day for Biafra. If you mention Biafra anywhere, they'll make sure they'll go to all extents to take that out of your mind. So the way that we've gone about Biafra actualization, well, is not just sensitizing of our people, because our masses already want that. That's what they want. The last speaker, I'm sorry, he doesn't have the pulse of our people. They want Biafra. We started with a non-peaceful movement, a peaceful, non-violent movement in the form of Masab. But after a while, the Masab leader took over and started pursuing things of his own. We know how far we went with him, and the time does not allow. So essentially what we've told our people is that these are civilized times. We're going to use a non-violent process, political process like a referendum, just get to the point where we can get Nigeria to understand that. But all over, people protest when they do not like their government. We've seen the Arab Spring, protests all over. And it only turned violent because their military started taking sides, some to protect the people from the government and others to work in favor of the government. So the way we've been pursuing it is a civil process. The people get out in the streets. It takes bravery and courage to go out there and stand in the streets for what you believe. But Nigeria does not want to see that. The reason why it does not want to see that is collective paranoia and hatred of Biafra. You know, a northern leader specifically talked in the last week and said, okay, you know, the Northerners can stand on their own and we can do this, we can do that. But when it comes to Biafra, he says they are against Biafra because they think Biafra is going to dominate the Delta people, you know, which is just totally paranoid, totally out of question. Look, they all want to see themselves, you know, all those other states and regions. They want to be independent of Nigeria, but whenever it comes to Biafra, no, for the sake of suppressing Biafra, they will do everything to continue to force everybody into one. Now, we can go to the structural problem. Nigeria's problem is not that of leadership, it's not corruption. Those are major problems, but the real problem is structure. This is a structure that does not allow this kind of relationship where we say we're all one. No, it's a bad structure, it's lopsided. It's a structure that has led to a relationship that's bad for everybody and brings out the very worst in everybody. So if any one of you has lived long enough...
Dr. to some extent, I would agree with you.
No. Yeah, there's a
I would agree with you that the structure
Mr. Ojukwu, hold on. Mr. Ojukwu, hold on, please.
You know,
Mr. Ojukwu,
no country is. But I think that in today's economic...
he can't hear me. Mr. Ojukwu, hold on, okay? Hold on.
I can hear you, but you've talked at length.
Yeah, let me... Okay.
You know?
Okay. Nwocha, can you finish, please, so that he can... Yeah.
Let me finish. Okay. Mr. Ojukwu, please don't interrupt me again. There's a moderator, okay? Now, what I'm saying is that the structure of Nigeria is so badly flawed that these people cannot stay together as one country. The sooner we can accept that, which we already accept, then the quicker that people can go in their independent ways, and then we can then shake hands across our borders and say, okay, these are areas where we agree together. Let's just do those things. But there's no reason to force everybody together and kill everybody and bring out the worst in us, and we are not progressing, all for the sake of what?
Okay. Dr. Nwocha, let me ask Ojukwu a question, and also you can respond in your answer to some of the things Dr. Nwocha said. But I want to ask you, Mr. Ojukwu, I know that your brother, when he was alive, he was close to Masab and Rafu was Leke. And I want to ask you, the people in the Biafran movement, they believe that Nigeria cannot be restructured to serve the purpose of their people. How do you think that Nigeria could be restructured? And how do you answer to the question that they often raise, that after 40 years at the end of the war, nothing has changed, that the same problem that led to the war are still on the ground in Nigeria?
Yeah. My brother had, shall I say, sympathies for Wazirike and Masob, because these are people who are agitating for something for which he had fought for a very long time, but which he had come to realize was no longer necessary. And this is why people like him came back, went to constitutional conference, formed political parties, and tried to integrate themselves into the political arena in Nigeria so that they can effect change from within. And this, I think, is the reality that everybody has to live with. That we are part of Nigeria. Nigeria may not be perfect, but we should work from within and try to correct those structural faults. In today's world, countries are coming together to form economic unions, and they are benefiting from whether it's by forming groups, whether it is European Community or ECOWAS or SADC, Southern Africa, and so on. People are coming together to remove economic barriers, to create freedom of movement, and to, as opposed to trying to break up into very small units. At what point do you stop breaking up? To the point where we all go back to our villages?
Yeah, but Ojukwu, sorry to interrupt you, but someone can also say, at what point do you stop believing that the big nations can work if they are not working? And of course, somebody can also raise the question that the European Union, before they started coming together, that they broke into their separate entity. You have the German and you have the British, and then after they've established and they've structured their countries, they now came together and say, okay, let's decide how we can form a bigger union. So what do you say to people who have that opinion?
Mr. Moderator?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Could I come in now?
No, let him just answer this briefly, okay, so that we can go to Dr. Nwocha, please.
Okay.
Yes. It's a question of where you see yourself at historically. Me, I see the benefits that comes from economic integration. I see that even though things are not perfect, the development that is taking place in Nigeria today is quite remarkable. You know, there's a lot of infrastructural development. There's a lot going on. It hasn't affected the life of everybody, but I think we are making progress. For the first time, the proposed budget for next year in Nigeria, education has the highest vote. This has never happened before. You know, this is the first time in Nigeria, apart from the era of Nnamdi Azikiwe and Awolowo and Okpara then. You know, Nigeria has never had a president that went to university. All these military rulers, they had good military education, but they weren't trained to be political leaders. They were trained to be soldiers.
Okay, you know? Mr. Ojukwu, let's stop it here because we'll come back to you. Let me ask Dr. Nwocha. Dr. Nwocha, people look at all the issues, all the concerns of different Biafran movements, and they ask this question. If Biafra is to be, and if Biafra is to solve some of these problems for the Igbo, why is it that the Igbo states as they are today are not functioning? And I know the answer that you will give, which is that these people running the states were curated by Abuja. But the other question that is there is, why is it that individual Igbo people in these states have not been able to elect the kind of people they want? Because if, for instance, look at this scenario, and I know it's a complex question, but look at this. If ABGA or a party of Igbo party will decide that everybody they are sending to Abuja is going to be there for the interests of Igbo people, everybody that is running the Igbo state is going to be there for the interests of Igbo people, then that could be a way of establishing a platform where you can now say, this is one day, say this is what the Igbo people want, and all the elected leaders will come behind that promise, that idea. Why is it impossible to get to that point?
Okay, thank you for the question, moderator. Could you just allow me a few seconds for the question to address some of the issues?
Okay,
the
go
last
ahead.
Speaker brought up. Go ahead. The last speaker is talking about economic union, but I hope that he understands the difference between economic union and politically forced union. Okay, you can be in your own country and have an economic union with another country. It's economic. He mentions the European Union. I mean, none of those people have sacrificed their sovereignty for the sake of the union. The British are still the British, the Germans are the Germans, and in fact, it's any attempt to try to politicize such economic union that is going to bring it apart. And Britain has stood out and says, I am not going to integrate the pound with the euro. So it is really amazing that in this day and age, people will confuse economic union with political union. What we have really seen in the political area is that countries are splitting apart. People that don't belong together. Yugoslavia, Soviet Union, now even UK, as we talk about, and Canada is trying to do the same thing. So I don't know why any educated person would today say that the world is forcing itself into smaller units. No. Economic unions, yes. Political unions, no. Everyone wants to maintain its sovereignty because that protects their self-determination. But in answer to the question, why are the Igbo states? Yeah, first of all, you've mentioned one of the reasons. These states are not created for the interest of the Igbo. Remember the history of states creation in Nigeria. Gowon started that. Essentially what he wanted to do was split out the Delta people away from the Igbo, number one, and then number two, balkanize the Igbo, which is the other word that people misuse. Balkanization is not just splitting people. It's making it impossible for people who belong as a unit to be able to act as a unit for the purposes of weakening them and benefiting whoever is splitting them. So that's one of the reasons. The state's creation was nothing to benefit the Igbo people. Okay, it was always to split them, so they're ineffective. Let me give you an example. You say, okay, why can't the Igbo reps go over there and talk? There are more local government areas in one northern state than there are in the whole of Igbo land. Now, if you put the totality of all the Igbo people representatives that go to Abuja, all of them, one northern state alone, one or two northern states alone could eclipse whatever they do, since things that are done by consensus. A long time ago, or a few years ago, they were talking about desertification in northern Nigeria. The northerners have always voted and gotten ecological funds to help their problem. Okay, but there's erosion in the east. When we got the eastern representatives, and we said, okay, go in and talk about getting some money in the same envelope, and say, so this is just for the environment. You guys are getting some for the north to help that, and we want some for the east, okay, to help with erosions. Do you know what they said? The northerners said no. And not only that, they defeated any attempts to capture those funds. Okay, so that's really the type of thing we're talking about. Why send representatives there when they don't have a voice? Their voice is washed out, whatever voice they would have, and they're just not representing the people. And then they get bought over. And then they're the elite, like the last speaker represents. People who believe that we must sacrifice everything for the purpose of keeping Nigeria one, when it actually works to the detriment of our people. So in answer, you have states created to balkanize the Igbo land, to split the Igbo land. Number two, their voices are diluted. Even if you could get all of them to act as one, they will not, by majority in the other states, the northern states will take over and block anything that they want.
Okay, Dr. Nwocha, let me go to Mr. Ojukwu. Ojukwu, let me ask you, are you concerned that there are, you call them minority, but there are a significant number of young people who are not satisfied with the way things are going? Are you worried? And the elite, are they worried that they could get to a point where they might lose control, that majority of people might side with this group of agitators who want drastic change, who are looking for Biafran Republic?
Yes, all is not well by any means in Nigeria. Nigeria has a myriad of problems. You know, there is a lot of poverty. There is a lot of inequality. You have some people that are so very rich and many people that are wretchedly poor. And this, I think, is at the root of what is happening in northern Nigeria with Boko Haram. It is a movement that is exploiting the fact that there are a lot of very poor and hungry northern youths who, even if they are not participating in the bombing, they certainly are totally unhappy with the fact that people are riding around in Mercedes four-wheel drives and they have no hope of ever owning a bicycle. This kind of inequality is all over the country. I am concerned that the government is not addressing this enough. But one correct step that I have seen is this question of giving everybody a better education by voting. This is one step. The question of insecurity goes all over the whole country. The Igbo states, as I said. I haven't been to my hometown except for when my brother was buried. And I know many, many well-to-do Navy people who are scared of going home. They've left their businesses, they've run away, they've taken their resources, and they've put it into places like Lagos and Abuja because they're scared of being kidnapped. The government of the eastern states, if nothing else, they should put all their resources in making sure that this kidnapping problem stops. Otherwise, it's going to destroy the essence of the Igbo people. Their sense of belonging, their sense of identity, their ability of their children to speak their language, you know? So I'm worried about many things. But I don't think that calling for Biafra is the answer. Who is going to lead Biafra? Who is the miraculous leader that is going to lead Biafra that will turn it into the heaven that some of these people are dreaming about? You know, it's human beings that make organizations work. It's human beings that make institutions work. And for now, as a whole, we don't have the right type of leadership to fully galvanize the potential that Nigeria and many other African countries have. But I'm still amazed that we are growing one of the fastest growing economies in the world today. You know? So I don't think Biafra will be the answer. Biafra is not a magic wand.
Okay.
I think we all have to tackle in our place of work, in our cities, in our states, in the country. Work at making this corporate body work and function better. Let us cut out corruption. Let us cut out all the problems. But not about dreaming of some new or other entity as if it is going to magically change everything.
Okay, Mr. Ojukwu, can we stop there? Let me go to you, Dr. Nwocha. We have like 3 more minutes, and I want to ask you. I don't think this debate is going to end today. And I don't think that, I know that the Biafran activists will continue to agitate for the Biafran Republic, in spite of what the elite might think about. My question to you is that we know that some of these young ones are being killed in Nigeria, and many of them are being locked up. How do you feel about the continuation or the idea that these things are happening to these young people? For how long will it continue to happen, and what is the expectation on how this will be resolved?
Well, thank you for asking that question. Now, first of all, it's unconscionable. Okay, at least maybe 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, they want to lock up these people and kill them. Keep in mind that when they lock them up in prison, they don't feed them. It's their relatives and the organization members that go ahead and provide feeding money and provide all kinds of support for them, and while they're bribing Nigerian officials. But you know, it's about that thing that they say those who make peaceful change impossible only invite revolution. That's what happened in Arab Spring. You don't know one thing. When the butterfly may flap its wings and it will throw the whole place into chaos. I think it's unconscionable. I think it's against the thing. It's against everything that the current modern world, the United Nations, stands for, which is that people have the right to self-determination. They have the right to go into the street and say, protest peacefully and say, no, what you're doing to us is wrong, and we demand change. And there's nothing wrong in the world with people saying, look, I'm a defined group, I'm an ethnic group, I need to go on my way because this relationship is not working. What you then do is you throw it into a referendum and have the people decide for themselves. I think Nigeria is making a huge mistake by trying to stand in the way of people going in the streets and saying, look, we need a change. And when those people are doing it peacefully, because ultimately what they do is they make people, they radicalize people, and those people, when they go down there and burn down the whole place, and in the very end, Nigeria cannot stand because it doesn't have the structure. The structure is not that. You cannot fix that. It's a fixed structure. It's flawed, and it cannot stand. So what they can do is listen to the young people, work out a referendum. I mean, in UK, the UK that's supporting one Nigeria all the time, they're doing their own referendum. Why can't we have the same thing for Nigeria? Are we that uncouth? Are we that uncivilized? Are we that non-human that what is good for UK is somehow not good enough for, well, we're not good enough to benefit from the same thing?
Okay, Mr. Ojukwu, sorry, we have like a minute left, but I want to ask you, this week, Olusegun Obasanjo, who played a role in the Nigerian Biafran War, said that Nigeria is really at the risk of a revolution. And I want to know, do you have that feeling sometimes that probably we are again making a mistake, that we are taking a risk that if some of these things are not urgently addressed, that we may not be able to predict how they might end? Is that a concern to you?
Yes, it is. It is. But you see, what we need is good leadership that scientifically identifies the problems that are besetting the country and approaches resolving them little by little, but in a particular manner. I don't think that we will resolve these problems by simply conjuring up a dream. I think we have to work, we have to start from somewhere. We have to start from where we are. We are in the Federation Nigeria, no matter how faulty it is, and we should speak very, very openly to ourselves and make readjustments. The things that Igbos are calling for today is that they want one more state. They want one more state within Nigeria, because things are shared according to states, and we have been shortchanged. So they're not actually talking about the Igbo people coalescing into one Biafra together with the other ethnic groups that did form Biafra. They're talking actually about federating into maybe smaller pieces in order to have access to federal resources. But I think coming back, what we need to do is to identify Nigeria's problems and tackle them one by one, and not to dream up of new states, whether they be called Biafra, Oduduwa, or whatever they may be, they may be called.
Okay. Dr. Nwocha, I give you the last word. Let's say we know that this will continue, and we don't know how long. And I want to find out from you, when you look at Nigeria today, is there any middle ground? Do you see any middle ground to solving this problem? Or is there any way you can, do you think, for instance, what I'm getting to, do you think that if we have a national conference that is going to help?
Okay, if we have a national conference with the right idea, then it's going to work. But what we have had so far is a so-called national conference where they say the end point has to be one Nigeria, like the last speaker was mentioning. It doesn't work. You fix.
I have a name, Mr. Dr. Nwocha. I have a name.
Okay,
my
Mr.
name is Ojukwu, not the last speaker.
Mr. Ojukwu. Okay, you can't say what Mr. Ojukwu and the rest are talking. Okay, like what Obasanjo did. We fix it. It's got to be anything we do has got to end up in one Nigeria. If you do that, you sabotage your whole process. Now, if you tell the whole country, okay, this is your country, this is your voice, what do you want? You go into a referendum, and whatever the people want, you respect. If a group says, okay, we want to be part of a union, you say, good. We facilitate that. If you don't want to be part of a union, you go out and stay on your own, That's what I see that's going to help us. But as for people fixing, we have to go back to basics again, when they are not recognizing and accepting what the basics are. The basics are that the structure is really, really wrong. There is no way that you have somebody that's steeped in Muslim culture. It's a total culture, how they can get along with the way Christians do things. It's nothing to be ashamed of. That's the reality. What you do is that you stay in your own different spaces, and where you can relate to one another, you relate to one another in peace. In other places, you maintain your own boundaries. That's really the essence of it. So if we go to a national conference and we say, okay, people come, speak your mind, how do you want this? And leave it open and see where it goes. Yeah, that's a good chance that it's going to work out. But if all we're saying, like Obasanjo and the rest of them say, okay, no, it's got to be, the end point has got to be one Nigeria. Let's rearrange the chairs. That is not going to work.
All right, Dr. Nwocha, thank you so much. And Mr. Ojukwu, thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we are going to get two of you back together, because this discussion is not over and it's going to continue. And I hope you will join us next time.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Dr. Nwocha, I wish you a good evening. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much.
I wish you a good evening too, Mr. Ojukwu.
Thank you so much. When we come back, we are going to have your Skype call segment, which is when you have the chance to weigh in. We've had serious discussions today. We've talked about Achebe's book, There Was a Country, which is connected to the same story of Biafra. And we just had a discussion with Dr. Nwocha and Mr. Ojukwu, who is the brother of Ikemba Nnewi. So when we come back, we take Skype calls and we give you the chance to weigh in, tell us what you think about all these discussions we've been having. And until then, stay tuned and continue to watch.